there's some Revelator songs that I'm like, man, we got to bring those back. But we've done so many songs and albums. There's like so much to choose from that I guess we don't think about it all the time.
We need to get you a really good slide player in Nashville, and you guys.
You know, he told me Susan wrote the song, which he was proud of. He said that with great pride. You know, the way you say nice things about your family.
From the first note with Tedeschi Trucks, they just blow you away.
Yes, we will. I wouldn't argue with anyone that says that could be my favorite song on I Am the Moon.
He, signs my ticket, and I look over at Susan. I say, Susan, would you sign it too? And she goes, oh, heck yeah.
Kevin calls me and was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He was like, Derek wants to record some tuba stuff. I said, when do you want to do it? And he was like, let's do it Wednesday.
It was Midnight Harlem. And it caught our attention, man. And we started diving deep, and we're like, okay, we got to see these guys.
What's up? Welcome to the unofficial Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 152, and I am Adam Choate. To follow the show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. On YouTube, just search Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. If you're watching, you are already there, so please be sure to subscribe, like the videos, share, comment. All that stuff is appreciated. I'll put out an audio version of this episode as well. I'll try to get that out later tonight because I know TTB is going to get started tomorrow night. What's today? May 1st. So May 2nd is the beginning of their weekend in Miramar Beach, Florida. So I'm definitely going to be recapping that. Actually going to be recapping that on Tuesday next week. I forget what day that is off the top of my head, but Tuesday night, probably 9 or 9:30, something similar. The link is already up for that on YouTube, actually. Tedeschi Trucks Podcast.com. That gets you links to everywhere. AdamChoit.com for my personal stuff. But today we are going to recap the Here It Is tribute to Leonard Cohen at the Kennedy Center. I think it's the Kennedy Center Honors as part of that, I believe. I'm going to be forthright. This is going to be a recap featuring three Tedeschi Trucks Band fans. That's kind of the perspective that this is going to take on. So for people that are hardcore Leonard Cohen fans out there, just know that in advance. We are not the expert on the man or his music, but we've definitely dove into it a little bit in the last few days or so as Derek and Susan and others paid tribute to the legendary songwriter and poet, musician, novelist, and I'm sure even more than that as I've been doing some more and more research as this podcast's the recording approached for this. Thank you, Rob, who I'm about to bring on, Rob Russo and Glen. I should have asked him how to say his last name, if it's a French or Petitt or Petitt, or I'm definitely messing that up and butchering that, but I apologize for that in advance. But let's bring them in. They were there Friday and Saturday. I forget who was there each of those evenings. It was over the course of a couple of nights on April 26th and 27th. But let's bring them in. Let's recap the night and the couple of nights, and then we'll get into it. What's up, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, good. How do you say your last name, Glen?
You hit it right the first time. It's Petitt.
Petitt. Yeah, I figured that. Yeah. Where are you located, by the way, Glen?
We're at Fairfax Station, about a half hour outside of DC.
And what about you, Rob?
I'm in East Falls Church, and we're about 20 minutes outside of DC.
Nice. And you were there which days of the?
I was just there on Friday night.
And Saturday for me.
And you were there on Saturday, and it was just 2 nights, right? Correct?
Correct.
Gotcha. Well, why don't we just do a little background, because this is the first time I think I spoke to either of you guys on the podcast, which is appreciated. That's so cool for me and so much fun for me just to connect with more and more TTB fans. And I part of me almost assumes that I've spoken to everyone who's been to some significant amount of TTB shows, and to hear Glen mention before we started recording that you've been to triple digits TTB shows. It's like, damn, I thought I knew everyone in the fandom. That's my goal, to build my audience, is just become friends with every single fan. I don't know if that's a plausible or feasible strategy, but that's what I'm going with for now. But Rob, why don't we start with you, and you could tell me, summarize your TTB journey and how you got into Derek and Susan and in your history?
Kind of, late. The right after the pandemic, I guess the last Wheels of Soul tour, we saw at Wolf Trap, which I'm sure Glen was probably there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Don't miss those shows.
Los Lobos was there, and I think Gabe opened.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of on a whim. I guess back in my mind, a lot of guys and girls had told, hey, see TTB, and they were usually associated with Locken Festival, have you been to Locken, Glen?
Yeah, that's actually how I discovered a really good friend of mine. We were going down for the Allman Brothers. That was 2014. And he said, you need to catch this band, Tedeschi Trucks. They're a freight train. And been following them ever since.
Glen, did you know of TTB before, or Derek and Susan before 2014, and that was the first time you saw them? Because when did you first?
Yeah, I would say that maybe I'd heard of them, but I really had not listened to them. And if you go see them live, you're in.
And it sounds like you were similar, Rob, and around, you said 2018. So you sound like you maybe had heard of Derek, Susan, TTB, but didn't really.
2022.
What's that? Oh, yeah, later.
Yeah, it was after pandemic.
Wow.
It was whatever the last Wheels of Soul. But, my musical journey started when I was in college. And I studied guitar. And at some point, I need to get serious. I had 2 majors. And like, if you're doing this, you should go to Berkeley. So I'm telling this story for the kids, I guess, like if you do something, you should follow through. So I didn't get accepted to Berkeley, and a couple friends wanted to go to a Dead concert in Maine, and I drove up to Boston, went to Berkeley, and said, why didn't you let me in, basically? And they went over my application, and they said, well, you're in. I said, well, great. And my friends were like, let's go to this Dead concert. So I kept driving, went to a Dead concert. But if I had gone to Berkeley, that would have been when Susan graduated in 88 or 91. I think she graduated. And Gillian Welch went there too. So it's kind of on my radar back then, as far as the blues artists and stuff went, having that scene around. So, but I didn't really get into TTB until my wife got into them, which would be 2022.
And she's a keeper.
Definitely. And that started my wife and I playing together, which was nice. So that's my whole journey in a nutshell.
Very cool. What about you, Glen? Do you play any instruments or music?
No,
at all?
A lot of people ask me that because, I go to so much music, but just never seem to have had the talent for it, just the appreciation, I guess.
That's there is a sort of talent and a skill and levels to being a fan and an appreciator of music, and that's something I found out just talking to different people on this podcast, like getting a chance to speak to fans who come from all walks of life. Some play music, some don't play music, some everyone kind of finds their role and seems to find their quote unquote role in this TTB world, be it making art for the band and t-shirts, just being a fan, being, a musician who likes to cover their, whatever it may be. Like everyone, like there's such an, countless ways you can appreciate this band, but we are here to talk about the Leonard Cohen tribute. And so how far are each of you guys away from the venue, the Kennedy Center?
Half hour. Yeah.
I prefer the bike there, but we took the Metro. I'm not sure. How'd you get there, Glen?
I drive. Yeah, because I live down off of 95. It's a good 30-40 minute drive depending on traffic. So we drove in and parked at the venue.
Nice. I can't say I've been. I'm guessing you guys have not been there, or maybe you have been there before.
Oh, many times. It's an incredible venue. I think the DMV, as we call the Washington, D.C. metro area, has a plethora of music venues. Rob was talking about Wolf Trap, and the Tedeschi Trucks tour will not be going to Wolf Trap this year, unfortunately, but they're going to try something new. They're going up to Columbia to Merriweather, which is a larger venue. So that'll be, I think, a fantastic show up there.
Nice. Yeah, you are definitely someone who's in the know about like TTB and venues and kind of just, I'm guessing, someone who's in the loop with all that stuff and like what's an upgrade, downgrade, bigger, smaller. Like you are knowledgeable. Like you're not saying, you're an expert level fan. Seems like.
Yeah, and I've met so many people through TTB that go to shows. You know, there are friends of ours that we met them in New York at the Beacon, and they live in Philly, and then we have friends in Boston, St. Louis. We've probably seen Tedeschi Trucks in about 10 different states, and then the district. So all the way across the country to Arizona and California and south to Florida. And, you just, want to go to Japan.
I want to go everywhere. That's why I'm doing this, so I can live vicariously through all y'all who get to see every single event. It kind of helps. It kind of works. It does the job to some degree. But Rob, you were there Friday night, you said, right?
Yes, right. I just want to point, the first time I went to Warner, which is just around the corner from Kennedy Center by the White House, is TTB.
Yeah.
I didn't even really know Warner existed until
100 years. They celebrate 100 years this year.
Yeah. Which is a great venue. I've since seen other people there.
Yeah, that's a top 5, seems to be consensus venue to see TTB shows, and it's like a home venue to a lot of you guys who live in that area. Rob, why don't you tell me about what it felt like when you were walking into the venue, the vibe of the place, because this is like a formal event. He's playing with what they're playing with the National Symphony, and it's a tribute show. Where was everyone wearing suits and ties and tuxedos, or
yeah, I think Glen can concur. I felt that the loudest applause of the evening on Friday was for the NSO, which is the National Symphony Orchestra. So I felt I was kind of at subscriber shows, like people who had done a classical subscription,
right?
Which I've done before at Kennedy Center. And Kennedy Center is actually a couple venues. There's that's where they have Millennium Stage. That hall at the end is I think on both ends there's a stage where they have free concerts. And I was seeing some great concerts there. I think Oliver Wood was there in October last year. So you can catch anybody on the free Millennium Stage around 6 o'clock.
Did you get the sense that you were one of the very few TTB fans there, or were there other, or none, or what was like? Can you spot a TTB fan?
I don't know. I'll do a percent and see if Glen agrees. I think there's probably like 15%, 20% TTBers.
That's pretty high.
Yeah,
I know in the Saturday night show when Derek and Susan came out, I thought it was a pretty good applause, and there was some hooting and hollering. So we had some TTB fans in the house for sure.
Yeah, she was singing some notes that were definitely hooting and hollering worthy. When I was listening to some of those YouTube videos, I'm like, people hooting and hollering for that, because that was hooting and hollering worthy. I don't know what kind of suits and dress, cocktail dresses, whatever people are wearing that night, but like definitely hooting and hollering worthy.
Definitely a mix. It's one of those venues where you can get dressed up to the the nines, or you can I put on a collared shirt and clean jeans. So,
how much were Derek and Susan featured Friday versus Saturday? Stage time. Were they? Yeah.
Well, I can talk about Friday because I'm really curious about Saturday. Our neighbors went, but I didn't get much out of them. Friday, it was very surprising because Susan and Derek basically closed the first set, and then Derek came back out and he was on for the entire second set.
Yeah.
And Susan opened the second set with Bird on a Wire, which is probably her number. Or for me, it was her number one. I knew that. Well, actually, I was kind of surprised. I didn't think she was going to get Bird on a Wire. I thought that was going to go to Trisha Yearwood when they didn't do it in their first 2 songs. So it was kind of a surprise. And then they opened with that for the second set. I'm pretty sure.
Well, lucky me, on Saturday, Trisha Yearwood was not able to be at the show, so Susan got to fill in. Dang. So she did Hallelujah on Saturday, as well as Bird on the Wire. Adam, the first set sounded very similar Friday and Saturday, and then Derek and Susan were actually on stage when the second set started, and then Derek, he was doing guitar work the whole second set, and I always find it fascinating. My wife and I had really good seats. We were in the front row on the left side, and I love to watch Derek when he runs the TTB shows. You can see he's the conductor. But Saturday night, the NSO conductor, and I apologize, I don't know his name. He's unbelievable. He could. He would give cues to all the vocalists. I don't know if you saw that, Rob, but I thought that was really cool. And then Derek got multiple nods from the conductor on, after he would rip a jam. Just really, really neat to see all that.
He's probably not used to that.
I don't know. They looked amazing too. I mean, they dressed for the occasion, and they were just. It was a different element to see them in, and it was really enjoyable. And great sound, and then you have the NSO backing you up, right? Not too bad.
National Symphony Orchestra. I got Andy Kahn's article here on Jambase with some information compiled. It's Vince Mendoza is the conductor, and these are Derek Baker's photographs. I don't know if he shot them for Derek or Susan or for the event, but that's who was credited on the ones TTB shared. But this looks like a super cool event, and it's not. I mean, whenever like Derek and Susan do some guest spots at some other events, I just feel like they take things over without even trying, or take things over effortlessly, with zero intention to, but they just command such attention with really their, but I was going to say their sound, but their presence too, but especially their sound, of course, which just cuts through is the term that I keep using, especially his guitar and her vocal does more than cut through when she's singing. It commands the attention of the room, really, in the space. Just look at the picture, we can hear her singing basically from a photograph. It just, I can hear the sound.
I want to take a minute to really thank Glen. Glen, you put up the video on Anthem, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, and after reading an article that was on the Leonard Cohen site, that video meant a lot more, and it was just so awesome to have that video to kind of reference back. I realized that was Saturday night. One of the things that happened in that video is Bill Frisell, who's sitting right next to Derek there. You see when Derek soloed there, you see Bill was chuckling and really having a good time with it in the video. I noticed that. So
it was a great event, and I think Derek has such a unmistakable sound tone to his guitar that you can hear it, and I love. I've heard some other musicians recently that have put singles out. Brandy Clark, for instance, and Derek plays on one of her songs, and it's just you can hear it on the first couple of notes, and you just say, "That's Derek Trucks." That's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, one of the things that really struck me about this concert, especially being able to go back and see your video and another video that's out there, is Derek was really on the tone on a volume control. At one point. He was just really moving it, which he does a lot. He does a lot of volume swells with the control, and I noticed it. He was blending with the orchestra a lot. He wasn't as upfront as he usually is, and you kind of, since it, there's a lot of instruments up there, it took a couple listens for me to pick out Derek actually being there, and he's kind of next to a master of that, who is Bill Frisell.
Yeah. Oh, that was a strong group up there.
So
yeah, I'm sure he was conscious and conscientious of just like not wanting to, turn it up to 11 for this type of event and music. I suppose a little more subdued, sitting down, of course. The dressed up, the orchestra, the whole vibe. But I can't help but think of because I did go to a tribute show with Derek and Susan. It was the BB King tribute show at the Grammy Museum in LA, and that was obviously a louder, more rock and jam kind of thing going on. But even then, just without even trying, Susan and Derek just kind of become the center of everything with their sound,
and rightfully so. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. What was like the format of the show? It was just musicians coming on. Were there like speakers and videos in between? It was just a concert basically.
There was a cameraman that walked across the stage during the middle of every song, I'm sure that Glen is a much better cameraman than the guy walking across the stage. It took two people. Did they have that Saturday night?
Yeah, they did. I think it was a safety issue. That's why the guy was behind him, because they were walking close to the edge. I'm sure it was something to safety. And there was camera, videographers everywhere. So I have to believe that this is going to be, like a made-for-TV event. They'll probably clean it up and.
And I think that's why there was no. I mean, maybe it's just my head, but I could have swore I heard Susan say, thanks or something. But there was almost no banter. Just the MC, who was Larry Klein, which I did not realize was Joni Mitchell's husband. For many years. I
didn't. Leonard also spent time with Joni. I think I read.
I know. I didn't. It's Canadian connections.
Could be, yeah. But he came out and thanked and talked about putting the event together, and gave I think some props to Don Henley. He said did a lot of work behind the scenes to put this together, and it was interesting. My wife and I were curious, would like to know, how do they pick the artists? To do this? Is it because they do great covers? Because I don't know anybody that does better covers than the Tedeschi Trucks Band.
And that was amazing to me too, that if you include us on a fireside session, they did Suzanne. That's 6 Leonard Cohen tunes for TTB. Yeah. That's a lot of work coming off a Australian tour, and then having Miramar tomorrow night. To prepare for. I'm sure this concert was a lot of rehearsal, and so that's impressive to me. And it's impressive to me that Susan's able to interpret those songs, and that it's her song when she does it.
Yeah, like it is TTB songs when they do them. That was my introduction to Suzanne, was TTB doing that. I think at the fireside sessions, which you were referencing. Like that's what we were talking about even before we started recording. Is that like that's the thing about TTB, and especially Derek and Susan, who it all stems from, is that through them you are going to be exposed, and you're going to learn about new music that you don't know about, and your horizons will be expanded, and your tastes are going to evolve, and you're just going to get an education. One is going to get a music education and a music history education, just being a fan of this band, and you're bound to discover like new music that you like, new music that you love, and everything in between. And that's just a testament to them and their love and respect and appreciation for music and music history.
Yeah, they did the whole album of Layla and Assorted Love Songs by Derek and the Dominoes at Lock-In in 2019.
And you were there, right?
I was. And I saw Derek's father at Red Rocks later that year. And I said, Mr. Trucks, I said, that was unbelievable. And he goes, I think it was almost as good or better than the original. Hard to argue.
And he means that, and many of us fans got a chance to have similar exchanges that you just described with Papa Trucks over the years, and
running the merch.
Yeah, and you could tell that he is a fan of this band and this music, and loves them as much as we all do, which is something to see. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to support my son and hang out with my son's band. And obviously there's the family history and all of that, but beyond that, just the pure love for just the music. It's just, the music stands alone. I feel like if I didn't know anything about this band and had zero context, and you played me their music and I was open to it, I'm sure I would get into it. I would think so.
Yeah, I don't know too many people that walk out of a show and say, "Ooh, I don't know about that." It's more like, "When's the next one?"
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. What is there significance to the posters that are behind you, or it's just random ones that are those blown up, or
Those
or
are
perspective?
lock-in. They're the covers from the Relics magazines, and so I just kind of wanted to put some up behind me when we talked, and those were rolled up, so I just hung them up on some foam core and threw them up there. So.
Yeah, those are cool. And what about you, Rob? That's
I'm just covering up an unmade bed.
But is that a TTB tapestry, or is it just a moon?
It's just something off Amazon. Like
I Am the Moon.
Yeah,
it's a moon. It's great. It kind of looks like the I Am the Moon. So I'll tell you.
All of this imagery, like this moon imagery, is just like it triggers us as fans, like just so much as like it's just TTB, that makes me think of I Am the Moon, that makes me think of it, like from like all the posts about the eclipse and things like that. Just to really anytime like someone's like, people will post in fan groups, here's a nice shot of the moon and here's me playing the TTB song, just it's everything tends to remind us of this band when I'm guessing you guys probably listen to the music, constantly.
We started playing it as soon as we heard it, my wife and I, and it was funny every time. We obviously started kind of like Rainy Day or some of the tracks off I Am the Moon, and then we would venture into another blues track or something, and then my YouTube would come up. TTB had already done it, so we kept trying to get away from the tracks they had done and forge your own path with covers. But TTB's been around, and some of the stranger would be like Ain't No Use by the Meters stuff, and whatever we hit, it seems like they had been there. So
yeah.
The other thing about last night that I thought was really interesting is that some of my favorite Susan moments are like when she is kind of riffing, like an is there a song called I Pity Fool?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Pity the Fool. There's one where she throws in a verse about drinking. Somebody was drinking here last night.
Is that they cover Willie's? Oh gosh, the name escapes me. But yeah,
I'm talking about let's
that did it. That did
that did is a song where she references some bar, and depending on what city she's in, her old Boston bar or something like that. But also she goes on her rants on I Pity the Fool and Space Captain and all these different songs.
Yeah. And Leonard Cohen, I knew the context of his songs, but I didn't realize how many political songs there were. He's kind of political. I don't know if Glen heard that too. Were you getting a political sense from Leonard Cohen?
Yeah, I think when I did a little, dive on him on, just kind of checking up on his music, because the only really thing I knew about Leonard Cohen was, well, of course, Hallelujah. How many artists have covered that? And then when TTB started, doing his songs, I think actually Bird on the Wire, they played that way back in, early on in their career. The band has an appreciation of great writing, great lyrics, and I think what they can do with that band is take anybody's song and make it their own.
Yeah, I really felt like she internalized the lyrics, and then she puts her touch on it where what she's saying, even if you personally you're interpreting.
You should feel it.
Yeah, you feel it, and you kind of, and I could definitely hear that. And it was really refreshing to hear that out of TTB, and in this situation on a song like you filmed like Anthem or the Steer Your Own Way, and kind of Susan is able to communicate her feelings in this song too. She can pick like the crack in the bell. There's a crack in the bell, and you hear her. She's internalized that and able to put it back out, kind of reshape the message. At least that's what I hear.
Yeah, no, she sings. They sing. They make choices, and it's purposeful. Even when they're improvising, they make choices, and it's purposeful. And you could hear that, shine through in her voice and in her vocal. And it's just, it always it captures me when I listen to these songs, because there's always some amount of like, not resistance, maybe that's not the new word, but it's like I could put on any song right now. Let me put on Let Me Get By from 2017. That's what I'm in the mood to listen to. But it's like, no, I want to put on what they just played at the Leonard Cohen thing, even if it isn't a super high quality video audio of my favorite song, but I want to hear this. And then I put it on and I just let myself sit back and listen to it. And sometimes I will pull up the lyrics as well, because especially with this, someone like Leonard Cohen, where the lyrics itself are such a big part of the music. I want that to be in my brain too as I'm processing the music. But yeah, this music within seconds, it just captures you, and Susan captures you, and everything feels like it's her song and her own. And again, like just the musical choices she makes and the vocal choices she makes, they make everything their own. And Derek is like bacon. I've described him, just makes everything better and adds to any musical group.
Yeah, they have so many layers, and they're such a force when they're all together. And it, I mean, what do you have? 5 vocalists, I think you could easily say 3 of them could be a lead singer for a band, right?
I think all of them.
All 5, right? I mean, they're all pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that was one of the things that in the first concert that really attracted my wife and I, that we both could kind of get into it, as opposed to, some different acts where it just might be me or might be her. Mm-hmm. But, since they have kind of diverse group on the stage, and Susan is really, sharing of the stage. We saw it like Alicia this year. It's, tough to have somebody come up there who potentially might upstage you on a song, and just and that was that way at the Cohen tribute. I don't think Susan really went out there upstaging anybody, and it was a well-run event. But I do know in the first night when we noticed some playing, that was another thing that was impressive. Besides the interpretation from Susan, was the ability to be kind of a rock singer and get up in front of an orchestra, which I don't know if you noticed that on Saturday night, but did everybody hang? Because that's a difficult spot to be in.
What do you mean, did everybody hang?
Well, I felt the performer who I connected with most that night, who seemed most at comfort on stage, was Ben Folds. I don't know if everybody.
Oh, well, he does a residency there, so
I know, and that's what I learned.
I think he probably knows a few of them. But yeah, I guess when they walked out, maybe the second night they had a more comfort level. But I think they owned it. I don't think there was any hesitation or Susan did have a little hiccup on Hallelujah, and I think in her ear, in her earpiece
monitor.
She had a monitor. She kind of did a little jump, but then then she just slayed it.
Is there any video or audio of that out? Did I miss that? No.
Well, after I took that one video and they asked me to not to do it. I think I've seen a few things posted in the where people were in the back rows. I don't think they would let you video in the first couple of rows, but after that, there's some stuff floating around.
Something tells me that will come out. Well, if I mean, I guess I should ask, if the gap or the technical thing is too harsh to overcome, would that something that'd be potentially not included in whatever release?
No, we heard it. It wasn't. It was timing, and that was on the first night with Gregory.
Fix it in post.
Yeah,
Suzanne. Yeah.
My wife Nora said that Gregory had a challenge on that one song, and that's a difficult song too that he did. I don't remember the title, but. They're probably going to take the best of both nights, I would think.
I see. Yeah, that's why they did.
Doesn't make it because of Hallelujah. Maybe Trisha did a better job. I don't know.
I see.
That about Susan is that she has, she shows her humanity sometimes, or she'll make a mistake and she'll kind of smile or look over at Derek but she just keeps on getting on. So. She makes up for it, and if that even needs to be said, she just, will kill the vocal later, right?
Yeah.
I thought
Turns
everybody,
lemons to lemonade.
I thought everybody killed it. I just thought it's, that an orchestra is normally set up for like an opera singer or somebody, and it's powerful. They did on the arrangements. I think they did go down to just a small band for one of her songs, but I think Bird on the Wire was a full orchestra, and
I gotta imagine that those musicians in the NSO, accept that challenge. We're going to bring in, musicians that are going to do, more contemporary or rock type songs, and we want you to accompany that. They probably love it, I would think. Wouldn't you like something a little different?
oh yeah, they love it. I can guarantee that just from my limited experience that anything that's not Beethoven's Ninth is probably a treat for them.
I mean, could you see? We kind of touched on it a little bit, but it sounded like you could see some of the reactions from some of the other musicians to Derek and Susan. Like I was saying, and I've talked about how like us, the fans, like we're always amazed and deeply love every note that comes out of Susan and Derek and TTB, but it's not necessarily totally new to us in terms of our expectations. Whereas to some of these musicians, like I was saying, I don't think they're uber talented, of course, playing classical music and whatnot, and really, of course, any kind of music, I'm sure. But like to hear Derek and Susan is something different, given his tone and her tone, and the power and the ability for their sound to just cut through. So with ease.
It would be interesting to see if they had worked with any of these music, because there was a core band that was kind of a jazz band, which was Bill Frisell, Kendrick Scott, Greg, I can't say his last name, and Emmanuel Wilkins on saxophone.
Yeah. He was definitely a fan favorite.
Yeah, and Emmanuel was moving during, especially the Susan and Derek songs. He was moving around up there a little, which is kind of a little unheard of on the orchestra stage.
That wouldn't surprise me. That's how a lot of these things, I mean, from what I gather, come together. Oh, who should we get for this? What about Derek? And what about this? Who knows this person? Who knows that person? Oh, let's call this friend. It's, a friend. Everyone's a friend of a friend of a friend who knows somebody, and that's how I'm sure it came together. I'm sure I wonder if that'll be included in, if there'll be any more of the background and how this thing comes together. I guess I didn't realize at first the nature and why this was structured in such a way. So it was essentially 2 nights that were basically kind of intended to be similar, and then they're going to mash it up together, or they're going to take the best track from each night. Basically, they're getting a lot of footage to use the best of for one thing. It wasn't like we have so much. Well, I mean, obviously, he does have a catalog, but it wasn't like we want to do this. It's not like they needed 2 nights for the tribute itself. They wanted 2 nights to get the highest quality takes for a television program or whatever they're going to put it out as.
Yeah,
I would think so.
I didn't even know it's going to TV, but I knew it was something different. And that's, I'd never seen one of those productions that you might see them put out where I think you mentioned Kennedy Center Honors. I'm not sure if it was Honors, but, we've all seen kind of Hart going to California and Robert Plant tearing up, and I didn't know what the crowd was going to be like, or if it was an honors concert.
Yeah, honors tribute. Maybe I may have got the wrong. Apologies for that. Like you were saying, Glenn, it's not like they only do events at this place once a year, but I don't know exactly what's on their schedule. Is it always tributes? And I'm like Kennedy Center, that's just tributes and honors. Every day is a tribute and honoring somebody every weekend.
Yeah, they do. I believe they do a lot of plays and musicals, and I think they have operas and symphonies, things like that. And then they have, like we said, Ben Folds does a residency there, and I think also there's some other artists too. And it's just a great center for the arts is really what it is, the Kennedy Center for the Arts.
Yeah, there's actually a whole new section called the Reach.
Yep. Yeah.
So they have added on. The Reach kind of has I've actually never been. Well, I have been to a couple things there, but it's kind of more hip hop or street scene.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's
Good stuff.
Interesting. A lot going on. It's right on the water. I can see from the picture of the venue. That's always nice. I'm sure any venue.
Yeah, right next to.
Yeah, it's right next to Potomac, next to Georgetown, and just a little down from the White House. Actually, I think it's right on the. I would say almost on the campus of GW University, where there's some protesting going on right now. There's protesting going on, I think, when we're there.
I bet. Oh boy, stay safe out there, everybody. What else should we cover about the shows, or anything else you want to talk about Leonard Cohen or the music, TTB? Glenn, you said you were going to Miramar. Did I hear that correctly? You were going.
I'm not going to go down for the TTB.
Oh yeah, you were going the week after. Oh man, no,
I think my next TTB show is going to be the Merriweather Post Pavilion, and I have couple shows up in New York.
And when are those? I mean, I can pull up the.
Yeah, I don't know. There's
I think TTB's is doing another 7 or 8 shows in New York in September or October.
Right, back to the Beacon and the Cap. I know they do have some time off. I think after Miramar, and then 22nd in Portland, then the tour picks up, and then that's kind of when it gets going. Summer tour.
West Coast run this year, Adam. Are you in LA?
Yeah. What did you say before? What about? West Coast run you were asking about?
Yeah, they have a West Coast run this year.
Right. Yeah, I'm doing to LA and San Diego. Then we'll see. Maybe at some other places too. We'll see how it shakes out. But those are coming up soon. Jeez, that's almost like a month away. It's
May.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely. I noticed this year's tour is a little bit different. I think somebody mentioned they might have a new management company. Because Rob was talking about seeing them at Wolf Trap, and excuse me, they're not playing Wolf Trap this year, but they're doing Merriweather. They didn't do as many shows at the Warner or at the Beacon this year, but they did the MSG Garden Party and the Boston Garden Party, and those were. I went to the MSG. What a night that was. When you have, for me, anytime they're in New York, it's a treat because you don't know who's going to join them on stage. On that particular night, they had Lucas Nelson and The Promise of the Rio opened, and then Nora Jones came out, sang a couple songs with Susan. Oh my God. They did a John Hyatt, Have a Little Faith in Me cover. Unbelievable.
I've listened to the show and watched the videos, all of them, a ton of times
every day,
and did a recap of that show. I remember talking about asking fans about the vibe of walking into an MSG, a Madison Square Garden, to see a Tedeschi Trucks Band show. It's almost, I can almost feel the excitement of you're almost at a sporting event or something like that, and then you see all the banners, and even in Boston Garden, they have even more than in prep, I think, in MSG, and it's you get the feeling this is where kind of MSG, the world's oldest arena, the world's most famous.
Well, they say
arena.
The most famous, yeah.
World's most famous, and there's also in Boston, there's so much history. Obviously, that's a little bit new arena compared to the original Boston Garden, which Susan still calls it, and that's on the tape. I remember she's like, "Oh, it's always going to be Boston Garden to me," but so much history and really champions have come through these arenas. And I just think, that's where TTB should be, because they are champions of music. Give them the banners and the rafters.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as fans, you like the small venues because they're more intimate, but then also you want them to be successful. So, you applaud them for being able to sell out MSG.
This is the catch-22 contradiction, sort of mixed feelings. That's not even the right term, mixed feelings, but we want all the success in the world for the band, but we also want to keep some of the intimacy levels high and the costs down as well.
I was really tempted to make the trip to Mississippi to BB King when they opened that. When Susan did that, that was last year, maybe.
Yeah, I did. I talked to someone who I recapped that it was like the what was that? They did like it was like a small bar almost like it looked like, and they did. And Susan and Derek were there, and they did a couple of songs. That's when they started bringing Mojo working back into the set. I think was that. I think
We
that's
got a Mojo working at Wolf Trap, and then it quickly dropped out. I don't think we've seen it since Wolf Trap, but that was fun to see Susan do that. Really core stuff from kind of like the old days, and just nail it.
Yeah, we may see more of the Leonard Cohen stuff, and obviously this weekend is going to be filled with Allman Brothers and Dickie centric stuff. I'm assuming, and I know Dwayne Betts is down there as well. We're all, I think people are expecting more Blue Skies and Elizabeth Reeds and whatnot.
Where we should have a Bird on the Wire tracker.
What's that?
See when we get the next Bird on the Wire.
Yeah, that's great. I've gotten a chance to see that. I have zero complaints about what TTB songs I've seen live, and Glenn, you've seen them and heard them all too at this point. Do you even care at this point, Glenn? Like what songs they play? Do you go into shows like, oh, I hope they play this or something, or is it by the time the band starts playing, everything's out of your mind? You're just
it's all good.
Right.
I mean, there's always a few that I like. If my wife Nora goes with me, she loves when Susan covers John Prine's
Angel
from Montgomery. That's a good one. I mean, I think I would like Susan, to add that John Hyatt, Have a Little Faith in Me into the rotation. That's a good one. But I love the new albums, the I Am the Moon, that whole story. I think every song that they put out was phenomenal.
Yeah, my only complaint is that they should play more of them, but then like the question always becomes at what cost? Because then you're not going to get something else and that's one of the another catch-22 with this band. As they keep growing and keep playing and touring and recording more music and putting out, the catalog grows, and then they have to make choices in terms of what to play. They just can't play.
That's why you
can't do everything.
You have to go to multiple shows.
Yeah, that's true, because they will play, no two sets are the same, no two versions of the same song are the same.
No, that's the I think one of the biggest allures for me is not only are they phenomenal musicians, but every night it's a different show, and what are we going to get tonight?
Yeah, there's I keep talking about it, but that's why a big part of how and why I'm able to do and excited to continue to do this podcast and talk about this band is because their music is so sustaining, from the gigantic catalog to the different combinations of musicians on a stage to the covers they do to their own originals to everyone's individual talents. It's just endless music. If they never did anything, never did a show, recorded anything for the rest of their, and then nothing was released between archive.org and their studio material and things they've done in their solo careers and Derek and Susan together on each other's works, so much material.
Great catalog. I mean, arguably the best live band out there.
What do you mean arguably?
Some might argue. I believe.
I see. You're speaking on behalf. You're giving a sort of devil's advocate. You're being kind. Miska saying that Wolf Trap Merriweather is not one of my favorite venues. Wolf Trap is the East Coast, says Carolyn Davis. I'm sad about
my home venue because I grew up there. We used to be able to sit outside the fence and listen to concerts without going in until Grateful Dead came through, and then the fences came down. And that was the end of that. But Merriweather holds 20,000.
Damn.
Under 20. It's expanded and built these kind of towers. So there's a lawn, but you can go a couple floors up and they built an artificial lawn.
Yeah, they did a pretty good renovation, I think, a few years ago there. So a lot of the outer buildings where they had concessions were, they'd kind of gotten run down, and now it's all brick and mortar, and it's a little bit of
bathroom in the back where everything overflows, but I think they just kept that for nostalgia.
Yeah, but no, that's a great venue. It's outdoors, so live music outdoors is pretty special. I guess all the people at the beach will attest to that this weekend, right, Adam?
What, that good weather is where it's at?
Yeah, anytime you go to the outdoors or the beach to see live music, Miramar
for sure.
Beach, it should be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, no, I'm going. As I see people starting to post and drive down there and head down there, the jealousy and the FOMO and all that stuff is definitely kicking in. But that's okay. I'm aiming to do my recap Tuesday night for that. I don't know. Someone's saying that they might not be able to do any fan recording, so I don't know I'm sure we'll get some videos and get some stuff. Like, that's right. We got a set list. I get it all in my head right here. I know every song there. We know all the songs.
It'll be interesting to see what the guest spots are, because I think tomorrow's Karina Reichman, who we saw her here at a small club.
Atlantis.
Yeah. Did you see Karina at the Atlantis?
That's right behind the 930. It's a little baby 930 club. And then the big 930 is the Anthem. So
yeah,
all of those venues, I think, are affiliated with the Meriwether Coast. So
yeah, I'm looking at this.
Interesting to see if we get any weird sit-ins, or not weird, but just sit-ins at Miramar that aren't. I know there'll be a Betts, but will there be others?
So TTB headlines Thursday and Saturday, and then Friday they are not playing. I'm just glancing at flyer here. Is that I don't know if you guys know the
That's
schedule.
the way I read it, because every time somebody posts a ticket, I debate heading over to Southwest and looking at what flights are.
Yeah, I'm going to assume on Friday that Derek Trucks will be picking up a guitar at some point and joining somebody. And I guess I'm just guessing that that's how these types of this festival might work out. But I guess I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing weekend of music nonetheless. I feel like I've taken up a lot of your guys' times. I appreciate the recap and the firsthand account of everything. It's definitely appreciated. I feel like I was kind of there. I could feel the vibe. Oh, 10, 15, 20% TTB fans. It's a little stuffy, but you're still going to get some hooting and hollering in there. And sounds like it was a very solid tribute to Leonard Cohen and focused on the music with, very talented musicians paying tribute. And you could see from Don Henley to Derek to Susan to the conductor to everyone on stage, how seriously everyone took it and everyone's talents shining through. Good stuff.
I agree. It was a phenomenal night. And I'm sure Rob's Friday night was just as good.
Yeah, Derek has some great solos with Don Henley. Did he do that?
Yes.
Yeah. That was probably his most soloing tonight. And I think one thing we didn't hit on was there was a tribute to Dickie Batts. And that took cojones to slip that in. I didn't hear it, but I think it's on your video at the beginning. There's a Elizabeth Reed tease.
That's what I was going to ask. A tease. Nice.
All right, I have to go back and check it out.
Necessary. Yeah, Derek is not sneaky, but yeah, that's another thing because TTB's catalog is growing so much that they just can't play anything in short of doing a medley, the little teases and the little riffs, can be nods to these other classics. But thank you again, guys. I appreciate it. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to plug or promote or anything. Not everyone's public figures or wants to do those things, but I'll give you the opportunity to do that.
I just appreciate you reaching out and letting me be a part of this. It was, and now I got a fellow TTB fan that lives close by, and Rob.
That's correct. Hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, guys, keep me posted when you got future shows. I know you gave me some of the dates and schedules, but we can talk more offline about that. And
absolutely.
I'm going to try to recap as many of them as I can. And when the touring gets heavier this summer, I'll recap a few shows in one podcast and try to figure out the dates that work for everyone and dive into whatever music comes out from them. But thank you again, guys. Glenn, Rob, let's talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Rob, take care.
You got it. Later, guys. So there you go. What was that? Episode 152, recapping the tribute at the Kennedy Center. Here it is, a tribute to Leonard Cohen with Glen and Rob, who were there Friday and Saturday. Rob Friday, Glen Saturday. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to diving in more to whatever comes out whenever exists as far as content from that night, and you know, diving into more Leonard Cohen stuff, and just, you know, gonna focus on having greater appreciation for him and his music. And because, you know, any Susan and Derek took the time to go to this and dedicate, you know, so much attention to this tribute, and it means so much to them. So anything that means that much to them is something that's worth me spending some more time on. And again, like, I can say it over and over again, that like, being a fan of this band, you will get an education, a music education, that is. But I hope everyone's doing okay out there. Please check out at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. Subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. I'll get an audio version out of this soon. iTunes, Spotify, all that. Subscribe on YouTube. I'm at Adam Choid on Instagram and Twitter. If you'd like to follow me, adamchoid.com for my personal stuff. TedeschiTrucksPodcast.com will get you to everything related to this show. TedeschiTrucksBand.com. That's TTB's official website. Definitely buy tickets to shows, buy merch, join the Swamp Family fan club, download the app and all that. Yeah, Miramar's this weekend, May 2nd through the 4th. I'll be recapping that on Tuesday. What day is that? Today's tomorrow's I'm not going to do the math. Whatever day that is, Tuesday night date that is, I'll be doing the Miramar the recap. But I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate everyone listening. You guys are appreciated for sure. Thank you, TTB. Thank you to the crew. Thank you to Rob and Glenn. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, the listeners, the watchers, supporters. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. Until next time, everyone have a great time this weekend. Certainly it's going to be amazing. But yeah, let's talk soon. Peace.